Welcome back to the Better Bookkeeper Show. I'm Lynn Talbot, and this is part 2 of our series on building a bookkeeping business worth buying. In our last episode, we talked about why you should start preparing now, not later. And we covered 2 of the 8 drivers that I've identified to drive value to your business. We talked about financial performance and we talked about growth potential. Those are 2 things that a business looks at, probably the top 2 things that they look at when they're looking to buy a business. So here's what I see all too often. Bookkeepers who think like a small business. They think they have a small business, and maybe they do have a small business. But I want you to think that you have a big business, that you have the potential to have a big business. If you want your firm to truly become an asset, you have to start thinking about it now. How are you going to grow it? How are you laying that foundation? Look at the tough questions and figure out how you can increase those value drivers so that your business is more valuable. Now, when I sold my business, I had worked in it about 10 to 12 years, and I really wasn't thinking about selling my business for the longest time. I just was tired of the hamster wheel. I couldn't grow past a certain capacity without just having to give half my life away. And I didn't understand all of these value drivers. Had I had someone to tell me about these value drivers and how to set your company up so that it would be easier to sell, I would have been able to do that much earlier in the company. And my company probably would have been worth more money because I would have had more time to work on it. So I just thought I would run my business until I retired. And then it never occurred to me that I would have something big enough to sell. I didn't know I could run a business that was big enough to sell, that anybody would want to buy or would be interested in. And so that's why it's important that you start thinking about that now. People like to buy bookkeeping companies. CPA firms, large firms like to buy bookkeeping companies because they are very profitable. They can be profitable if you do the right strategies. So I want you to start asking yourself these tough questions. What is my exit strategy? Are you thinking maybe you could leave this as a legacy for your children? Maybe you would think about bringing on a business partner. That was one of the things I thought. I kept thinking, well, I'll bring on an operations manager. And if they work out really well and we're, a really good match, maybe I could bring them on as a partner and I could slowly start decreasing my hours. And they could be the working part and I could be sort of the helper, but not working my 60 hours a week like I had been. So that was one of the things you can think about. Do you want to build it and just sell it for $1 million so you can retire? When do you want to retire? What does that look like when you build your business and you want to retire? So even if your exit is 10 to 15 years away, you're in your 30s or 40s and you're like, I want to run this forever. You don't want that business to run you. You want to be able to be in control of the business and run it. Because I'll tell you, if the business runs you, it's going to run you ragged. And in 10 years, you'll be like me and be like, I'm done. I'd like to sell my business. And I didn't have 3 to 5 years to prepare for that. So this episode is for you. You can take those 3 years and try to prepare your business, even if you don't think you're going to sell. You never know. So, when you strengthen your firm over the next 3 to 5 years, which is what you're going to be doing, you don't just make it more sellable. You give yourself freedom right now. You're going to have smoother processes, stronger profits. You're going to have less stress. So today, I want you to put on the glasses of a buyer, and I want you to see your business through the eyes of a buyer. So what would they see? So now we're going to talk about 2 more drivers, value drivers for your business. We talked about financial performance, clean books, consistent margins. We talked about growth potential, proving that your business has good bones and you can add on to it and grow. You have room to expand. So number 3, we're going to talk about cash. And cash is king. We hear that all the time. The less cash your business needs to run, the more valuable it is. Buyers want to know how quickly you turn work into cash, right? So here's the question I want you to ask yourself about your own business, and just be honest. Do you invoice promptly? Or sometimes you just kind of let it slide, or you're late, or you decide not to invoice someone for whatever reason? Do you auto charge your clients, or do you send the invoice and you wait for them to pay? And I should say, you wait for them to remember to pay you. Do you bill in advance, or do you wait until after the services are delivered and then bill them? So I used to do this when I first started my company. The practice was, and again, this was years ago, was to bill your client at the end of the month for the previous month. So I would bill them in October for work I did in September. And sometimes it would take me 2 or 3 days to create that bill because I might have had different people working on it. I had to go into my time tracking system, and I had to remember what I had done on the books. And sometimes I wasn't the best at always logging in and tracking my own time. So it was usually a process to do that. And if you've got 100 clients or 200 clients, that billing can take you 4 or 5 days, even if you have an admin, helping you. But the fact is, if I didn't get it out till the 3rd, 4th, or 5th of the month, that means I wasn't getting paid until probably the 10th, 11th, or maybe the 15th. And I would put a due date, by the 15th. And I would just let people pay. And then, of course, what happened is on the 15th or 16th, I would go back into the file and say, all these people, and I'd have to click on, send a reminder, send a reminder, send a reminder. I hated doing that. And I know you probably hate doing that too. I hate asking people for money. But I learned later on, it did not bother me. Now it doesn't bother me to ask people for money at all. I'm just straight up front. Hey, you owe this bill. I need to know when you're going to pay it. And if they haven't paid it, I will get the information that I need to auto charge their card. So that's why I ask, do you wait and do your billing later after the services are performed? Or do you bill them in the middle of the month that you're currently performing those? Or maybe you bill on the 1st and the 15th. Maybe you bill every week. Think about how you're billing, and is that the best way to bill for the services that you offer? Do you also forecast your cash flow? If you've been in business for a while and you've bootstrapped it, you should have that nest egg that covers all of your payroll and all your payables before your clients pay, right? You've established that. You don't have to take out a loan to do payroll or a line of credit so that you can meet the obligations of your payroll. You need to, so you need to forecast your cash flow. How does it look? And also the buyer is going to look at, do you take a regular monthly draw? Because that's what they're going to be taking, right? How much money do you take home? They're going to put that immediately in their pocket and say, this is how much money Lynn has taken home this year, last year, the year before. So I predict next year and the next year and the next year, I'll be able to take home this amount. If you don't have a regular draw or an amount that is appealing to, a buyer, then you need to look at that as well. And lastly, about cash, do you know your AR turnover rate? It's not something that we typically calculate when we're doing our books. We'll calculate it for our clients, right? When they want to know what their turnover rate is, or we'll get on them if they say, hey, my cash flow is tight. I need to go get a line of credit. I'll often look at their books and say, you don't need a line of credit. You've got $250,000 of AR over here. Let's get on the phone and call these people. And they'll be like, I don't want to call them. I don't like to do that. So their AR turnover rate forces them to go borrow cash, not the way you want to do business. And I'm sure no one listening to this podcast that runs their own bookkeeping firm would do that. But you do need to know your AR turnover rate. And the formula is easy. You just take the average of your accounts receivable for the last year. So let's say it's October 1. You're going to run an accounts receivable report for October 1 of this year. Write down that number. You're going to run a accounts receivable for October 1 of last year. Write down that number. And then you're going to add the number and add those two numbers and divide it by 2. That's your average accounts receivable over the last year. And then you're just going to take your total sales during that same time period. Don't go doing a different time period. So during that same time period, let's say your total sales was $1 million. $1 million just to make it easy. And let's say your average AR was 100,000, or you had 800,000 in sales and your average AR is 100,000. Your turnover rate's going to be 8. That means that you've collected receivables 8 times during the year. So about every 45 days, right? So if you have sales of 800,000 and your average AR is 100,000, your turnover rate is 8. You can go back and calculate that. Go back the year before and the year before and the year before and see how you've improved your AR. That's the things that buyers are going to look at. Are you looking at it? Are you paying attention? Are you tightening up your AR? You have got to tighten up your AR. Again, cash is king. They're going to look at that and say, how fast do you get your money in? And of course, I got a lot better at that after year 3 or 4 when I realized that people weren't paying me on time or they were dragging it out. Oh, it just drove me crazy to have any AR at all because I was prompt in paying my bills, my payables, and my employees. Always paid my employees first. But I was frustrated that the clients wouldn't pay me, knowing that I'm paying my employees, right? Some clients just don't care. So you do need to tighten up that AR. So the higher number that you have, the better. So if your number is 12, that means that you're collecting your payables 12 times a year, every month. That's good. That's you're not acting like a bank, right? And you have clients that pay on time. So think about that. The buyer wants to know how your clients are paying and when they're paying. If you have clients that pay on time, that's a better value, right? Than clients that don't pay on time. So they'll look at those clients that pay on time and value them maybe a little bit higher than the clients that aren't paying you on time. Does that make sense? Well, yes. So you want to get your company in a position so that the last 3 years you can show, hey, most of my clients pay on time, or they're not only do they pay on time, they're paying before the services are offered. So here's some quick tips. If you go back and look at your AR, maybe you stopped this podcast, you went back and calculated and said, yeah, Lynn, I need to tighten up my AR. I'm scared to do it. And we're all scared to go to our clients and say, hey, I need you to pay this earlier. Hey, I'm going to move your payments, from here to here. I'm going to move them forward, 10 days or 20 days. We're afraid our clients are going to leave, right? But guess what? I did that several times during maybe in my 10 years. I did it maybe 2 or 3 times where I went in, moved my client's payable date back closer to when I wanted the money or closer to when the services were offered. No one left. Nobody left. So don't let that scare you. Hey, if I ask people to pay me earlier, they're going to leave. If they like you and you're doing a good job and you're an awesome bookkeeper, you're communicating well with them, you've given them steady, consistent service, they're not going to leave. But you do have to prepare your clients for that. And it's not something you can do overnight. Again, that's why I keep saying, give yourself 3 to 5 years before you want to sell to get all your ducks in a row here. So you're going to tighten up that AR. Here's some tips for that. I suggest you move the billing to the month where your services are offered. So this is what I did when I realized I wanted to sell my business, and I went in to tighten up that AR. So instead of billing them October 3rd for services in September. Now, these are clients that are on a monthly contract. Let's say they're $500 a month, and I'm charging their card, or, they're paying in October for services in September. I changed that. I first changed it to the last day of the month. And the one reason I did that too is that the invoice, goes there. And when you run your books on accrual, the invoice is in there and the payment is in there the payment, can follow, but it will still be in there when you're doing your books on accrual. So I like that. I could run it and say, this is how much I billed this month. Not this is how much I collected from all the prior months when people were randomly paying me. This is how much I billed this month. So if you're billing later, then you have that lag, and you're not really truly giving the perception of what you're billing that month. You're giving the perception of what you're billing the next month. I hope that makes sense. If you're in bookkeeping, it'll make total sense to you. So you're going to move that billing to the month that you actually do the billing. So if you're currently billing on after the fact, you're going to bill, and this is what I did. I moved it to the last day of the month. And then about a year before I sold my business, I was like, ooh, I better tighten this up. I moved that date to the 20th of the month for all my clients who were on a monthly service contract. They were just paying monthly, because I thought, why should I wait till the end of the month? Because I would bill them on the 30th, but I wouldn't really get the money till the next month, right? I wanted to bill them and receive the money in the same month. So that's tightening up my AR. Now, here's the key. I didn't wait for my clients to pay. I used to wait for my clients to pay. I'd send them that little bill in QuickBooks and say, hey, please pay this bill. And they would click to pay and, pay however they wanted. And they paid whenever they wanted. Yeah, I don't do that anymore. I did an auto charge. When someone's on a service contract, it's just like they're paying QuickBooks or paying anybody else. You're going to auto charge that every month. You're going to auto charge it through that sales receipt. So in QuickBooks, you just go in and do the sales receipt. You say on the 20th of the month, charge client ABC $500, and don't stop until I tell you. So it is an invoice and a payment all together. So I get all my money by the end of the month. So my AR, my invoice and my payment are in the same month. There is no AR, right? At the end of the month, there shouldn't be any AR. Maybe just some random stuff. Somebody's check that didn't, go through, their payment didn't go through. So that's what I'm saying. If you're afraid to make that leap from the 5th of the month following the service all the way back to the 20th, just move it to the 30th or the 25th, something like that. Do a little bit and just tell them, give them a lot of upfront, knowledge, give them three months in advance, and then go into QuickBooks and move all those sales receipts to the 25th. Sure, they're going to get 2 bills in the same month, right? They're going to get one for the previous month and then one for the current month, but just tell them that. And then from then on, it will be fine. I got a few people that complained. Most never even noticed and said, I don't have a problem with that. So don't be afraid to change your AR to the current month, that billing to the current month. And if you don't do that, if you say, oh, I don't want to do a sales receipt, or Lynn, I don't have any clients on a monthly recurring contract. Well, there's an issue right there. You need to try to move people on a monthly. I know it's hard, but if you've got a year of data with them, get that data together, divide it by 12 and charge them that, or, add a little bit more to it, whatever you want to do, and charge them that flat monthly rate. So switching clients from being able to click to pay whenever they want to auto charging that sales receipt through QBO is amazing. Like that shores your AR up right away. You shouldn't have any AR problems after that. Very, very few AR problems. If you currently bill after the fact, or maybe you bill the 1st and the 15th and you wait for them to click, maybe you give them a 15 days to pay. That's still a long time, because some clients just, they see that button to click to pay and they think, oh, I got 15 days. I'm not going to pay it now. And then what happens? They forget to pay, and you have to send the invoice again. And that's embarrassing. And then you're like, do I add a late payment fee to it? I don't know. It's awkward. I don't like that. So doing that auto charge is really good. And I'll tell you another secret. For clients that I had that I was doing hourly work for, maybe I was doing cleanup for them, I was doing extra work for them, or they were just a new client and I had to do 2 years. I wasn't able to get them on a monthly because there was so much work going on. I made them sign a contract that said, I will send you the invoice for work for this month on the first day of the following month, and then I'll auto charge your card on the 5th. Automatically it's charged. I need you to sign this document that says I can auto charge it on the 5th. I don't wait for them to pay. And I send them the invoice on the first day of the month or second, whatever, day I can get around to it. And I tell them right there, please do not, this bill will be auto charged to the card you have on file or the method of payment that you have on file. and boom, it's done. And then on the 5th day of the month, all your money is in your bank account. So I don't wait for people to pay me anymore. And that's just a big hint on how you can pull in those receivables. So I hope that helps you realize that a strong AR turnover will reassure buyers that you've mastered cash flow and that your clients don't have a problem paying you on time because you're a good bookkeeper. You run a good bookkeeping firm. If they had a problem paying you or they don't want to pay you, that's an indication that maybe you've got the wrong clients. Somehow you're not vetting the clients very well, or the clients don't like the work that you're doing. So that could be a little bit of a red flag for them. So that's driver number 3 is tightening up that AR, getting that cash flow because cash is king. All right, number 4. This is the 4th value driver and the last one we're going to talk about in this podcast. And it is be the purple cow. I know that sounds funny, but I remember this poem as a child. I don't know why, but I had to memorize it. And when I saw this, be the purple cow, I was like, this is perfect. And it's a poem by Gillette Burgess, and it says, I've never seen a purple cow, and I never hope to see one, but I can tell you anyhow, I'd rather see than be one. And you want to be the purple cow. You want to be the one that stands out, that says, hey, I'm different. Look at me. I've got value. I've got things to offer. I've got some unique niches. Look at me. I've got my AR all pulled in. You want to be the one that stands out. So trying to be the purple cow. So if you look and sound and price and you're boring like every other bookkeeping company, you're just going to be treated like an average commodity, right? And commodities just compete just simply on price. It'll just be like, you have 800,000 in sales. I'll offer you 800,000 for your business. There's nothing special or unique about you. So that's kind of the worst place to be. But being a purple cow in a field of all the other cows that are just black and white, makes you stand out. So here are some ways that you can act like a purple cow. Try to present yourself this way. We talked about this a little bit. Do you specialize in a niche? And do you do job costing for contractors? Because that's specialized. Do you work with law firms? Maybe you specialize with nonprofits. Those are very different niches and are attractive to buyers. It doesn't mean that all your clients have to be in that one niche. It just means that that's maybe 30% of your clients are nonprofit or 50% are, law firms. That lets the buyer know you're unique, you're special. You've tapped into a market that they haven't been able to tap into, and they would like to see what you have to offer in that area. Thus, value is going up, right? Do you have some proprietary processes or templates or something that you do that's a little unique with your clients? A few things that I did with my clients is I would tell them in my contract, you can meet with me, Lynn Talbot, the owner, once a year or upon request, but generally once a year. And I would do that only in June and July because the rest of the year, let's face it, we're doing taxes. And I would do a 30-minute session. Sometimes it would stretch to an hour. And almost all the clients would take me up on that the first year. I would have my admin email all of them and say, here's a time on my calendar, pick this time. You have June and July to meet with Lynn just to go over your books. And I would try to prepare some information for them, just some insights about their business. So the first year, almost all the clients would do it. Second year, maybe a third did it. By the time I was with them the third or fourth year, they never would call me. And I would be like, why aren't my clients wanting to meet with me? And it was because we had established processes to give them proper feedback on their firm every month or every quarter or every year. So that's one of the things that we did was we would say, hey, let me just take a look at your books. And I would call it the world according to Lynn. It's like, this is what I see. But every client books tells a story, right? And I would present it that way. I would say, if I'm looking at your books just from the outside in, I see this. I see in November and December is your biggest month, your trends. And then I see January where you have losses and you have some cash flow issues there. So let's talk about that. Tell me how you work through that. So we identify areas where our clients might could use a little help, and we talk to them about it. We don't just do their books with blinders on and give it to them and say, yeah, you don't have any money this month. That it's kind of yucky, but we don't, that's not really our problem. A lot of bookkeepers are like that. They're like, it's not my business to see if you're running a good business. It's just my business to put all the transactions in their proper categories. No, you want to stand out. You want to be that purple cow that says, hey, I can help you view and offer insights to your books. And it doesn't take a lot of effort to look at the books and offer insights. If you've been a bookkeeper for 10 years, you'll be able to do that. So you want to kind of elevate yourself to be the trusted advisor, the trusted person that they come to. And the biggest compliment I have is when a client calls me and says, hey, Lynn, I wanted to get your opinion on this. I'm thinking about, and they tell me what they're thinking about doing. And I'm like, yes, thank you for calling, because that's a lousy idea. Or thank you for calling. This would be great, but listen, I want you to think about these 3 things, or I want you to use this vendor, or don't use this vendor. I've had difficult, time with them or something like that. So I love it when they call. If you don't have that relationship with your clients where they feel like they could call you, or worst case scenario, you're doing their books and all of a sudden you start seeing like loans, or you start seeing stuff and they're like, oh yeah, I got a new partner. Like, well, I need to know that. Like, oh, I bought a new building, last year. And you're like, holy cow, I don't have your HUD statement. If you are not paying attention to your clients close enough, or you're not close enough to the owner that they aren't letting you know those important milestones in their business, then you don't really have an advisory business. You want to make sure that you are the purple cow, that you're like, hey, I want to know what's going on in your business, client. I want to be there for you. I want to help. You might not have all the answers, but it's a good opportunity to say, that's a great question for your CPA. I can't tell you whether to, buy a truck for your business is a good investment at this time. Or I don't know the answer, but I know somebody that does. Let me connect you with this wealth manager. Let me connect you with somebody that does, mergers and acquisitions, and they can help you with this project. So make sure that you're a team there, and you want to be their trusted advisor. And then again, think about, how do you stand out? What does your brand look like? Does it look interesting? Does it look exciting? Is your brand clear so that people know what you stand for? Would a buyer come in and know what your business is and what it stands for? I had kind of an awkward name, and I don't know how it became successful, but I was afraid to change the name of my business because everybody knew me in town as that business. And my business name was HR Business Solutions, because I started my business in human resources, giving out human resources advice. And so I called it HR Business Solutions. And then I still did that up till the end. I was bookkeeping and human resources because human resources was my background and my degree. It was easy. But as I became more accounting and less human resources, at the end, I was 90% accounting and, just 10% human resources. I still had the name HR Business Solutions, and we shortened it to HR Biz and just kept it that way. Now, that might not have been the best name because it didn't really represent that I was doing, bookkeeping. But think about your branding. Is your branding consistent across all the platforms? If you've got stuff on Instagram and on your website, is it consistent? And are you giving a consistent message? Because the buyer is going to go look at all that, right? They're going to Facebook and they're going to Instagram. They're going to go to TikTok. They're going to look at you everywhere on LinkedIn. Does it look consistent? Does it look professional? Do people look at that business and say, wow, that is a really cool business that Lynn has there, So you want to make sure that you're standing out clearly. Like people will know what you're doing, because buyers will pay more for a firm that stands out. It makes growth easier. It makes your marketing stronger, and it keeps your clients like loyal as well. So just look at your branding and ask yourself, is it consistent? It's okay to change your branding. You can get a branding person. We have one on our team at coachingbookkeepers.com that does all of our branding and has helped many bookkeepers kind of just upscale their branding a little bit to give them that extra oomph they need. And that branding, you want 2 or 3 years for that branding to, be consistent. So here's the takeaway. The generic bookkeeping shop might sell, but the go-to expert for a niche, that sells at a premium. So buyers will pay more for a firm that has a strong brand and clear positioning and, stands out like the purple cow. They know they can market it more easily and scale it faster. Think of it this way. You can be another generic bookkeeping shop, or you can be the go-to expert for a specific type of client. The first gets you just average value. The second makes you stand out. The second firm would get more value, would get more money. They're more desirable. So here's your call to action. Here's your next step. Don't just listen to me over here talking about what to do. I want you to act. If a buyer looked at your cash cycle, would they see discipline? Would they see a tightened up AR? Would they see predictability? Would they see future predictability? If they compared you to 3 other bookkeeping firms that they were looking at purchasing, would they know instantly that you were different? Would they say, this is the purple cow that I want? Or do you just blend in with the pack? So take a few minutes to jot down your answers, and that reflection point will be your next move. You will be able to see what it is that you need to do to your firm to get you up to be that purple cow, to get you to be a little bit different, to differentiate you from all the plain Janes out there. And if you're ready to go deeper, grab the full workbook with all 8 value drivers, checklists, and exercises inside our Bookkeepers Training Circle. You'll get the exact tools that I use to scale my own firm, and you can download it for free as a member. Thank you for joining me on this series. And remember, you're not just building a bookkeeping business, you're building an asset. And that asset is your ticket to freedom.